Hello and welcome to Smash Writing. Today we're going to be talking about Winnie the Pooh and Blood and Honey. I went into this movie with some pretty high hopes. We are going into a fairly lengthy stretch of new movies coming out that Ant-Man Paul should be bringing you tomorrow. We got Cocaine Bear, and it just goes on and on. I'll try to remember to put some pictures over here showing you how many movies are going to be coming out in the next few weeks. And the idea of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey being the kickoff to it was fairly exciting because I was expecting just a fun, out there, bizarre horror comedy movie to get the ball rolling. I'm stalling for time here, definitely. Gotta have to talk about this movie. Don't actually want to. Let's get it over with. Rundown, what's happening in this movie. The movie kicks off with a bit of animation, drawing animation, explaining the story of how young Christopher Robins found these little mutants, we'll call them. They're half-breeds, half man, half bear, half man, half pig, yada, yada, yada. And as a child, he loved them. They were the bestest friends. He brought them food all the time, which is the important thing to remember. He brought them food. Because when he became an adult, he had to go and do adult things. He had to go get a job and have a life of his own. And he stopped coming. And the animals began to starve. And in an act to save themselves, they all ate Eeyore. I love the fact that's a sentence. I do. And by committing that act, though, they cast away their humanity. They decided to just attack the humans and hate everyone, including, and most importantly, Christopher Robins. So we jump ahead of time, and we see Christopher Robins bringing his fiancée to the woods to meet his former friends. I say fiancée lightly. There was a line, I'm fairly certain. He said soon to be Mr. and Mrs. Christopher Mary, I believe, Robins. But they get to this little house and they find these things of like, something bad's going on here. They really don't like Christopher. And they hide when they hear a noise coming, and it's Winnie who comes up and goes to bed, and they sneak out of the house, and Piglet attacks the woman, and he's choking her to death, and Christopher's yelling at him to stop, but he's not stopping and kills the woman. And Winnie comes out because of all the noise, and they trap him, and he's like, Piglet killed my wife, and that's when I knew this movie was going downhill. Like, soon to be Mr. and Mrs. and now he's screaming, wife, you've already messed up. Anyway, they capture Christopher Robin. It kind of looks like he's dead, but you find out later on they're keeping him hostage to torture him. We jump ahead again. We meet the main female character. She's getting advice from her therapist that she needs to go away, go on vacation somewhere she feels safe. Because we find out when she tells her friends, she brings 5 of them along. There was a 6th one. She doesn't make it. But we find out that she's been getting stalked by this guy who was even in her bedroom one day while she was sleeping. And she woke up to find him like kneeling alongside her. So that's the reason for this trip. Slasher things happen. Death, misery. Let's just carry on with this. This is the synopsis. Pros and cons. Pros, I really do like the hand-drawn animation at the beginning with the kids and then them dragging Christopher Robin away when they cut to the hand-drawn animation style. That was all real nice. And the gore does a lot of heavy lifting in this movie. Very gory. I do like the kills. And unfortunately, that is the end of the pros. I try to be nice to these movies. I used to just do one of my big things on the blog site when we were running blogs was B movies, movies that didn't have a lot of money, movies that didn't get theater runs. I try to be really kind to them because it's like, I get it. I know you don't have a lot of money, you're working with what you got. Oh, this movie though fails. Like, this might just be me. The way this movie was going to succeed was going for that fun horror comedy goofiness, the sense of like, these are your childhood memories around these characters, and now they're all evil and twisted, and you're gonna have fun with it. And this just seemed shock and awe. And that's about it. Like, isn't it shocking that Piglet just crushed her head with a sledgehammer? Ooh, but there was nothing really here. It was all everything felt shallow, one-dimensional, and it just didn't work. The writing is atrocious. Like, really, really atrocious. They just did things. They didn't put any thought into any of the words, and it just came across as lifeless. Like I said, that during the rundown of this movie, you had Christopher Robins that grew soon to be Christopher Mary Robbins. And then 5 minutes later, he's like, "You killed my wife!" It's like, wife or fiance, that matters. The biggest thing, and I crushed the Requiem on this, and I'm going to crush it again here. Don't just use things like this woman had a stalker and she's traumatized and that's why she's coming here. Because again, you're not running with it the way the story elements like that should be handled. There's a correct way to handle these story elements. So go check out Kimmy, how they handled the mental health in Kimmy. The way they just handled it here was like, just, we need you to care. So here's a trauma victim, care about them, please. And that's not the way you handle those. Like, you could have just had this be a bachelorette party. They could have just been on spring break. Anything else, anything other than this. Because you're just using this traumatic event for nothing. I know it's a nitpicky thing, but for me, and you go with like trauma, and the Requiem, it was miscarriage, you're stalking trauma here. It's devoid of emotional story arc because you're not going to get the necessary breathing room. A story arc like this needs to have the breathe in a movie like this. And honestly, with all that, between the bad writing, the atrocious writing, the fact that this just felt lifeless, it was just shock and awe, and there was nothing really to bite into. This movie failed miserably at what I thought it could have been, what it should have been. It's like a fun, lighthearted horror comedy, and just instead we just got shock and awe and nothing to bite your teeth into. And it's a shame because this movie and this idea of taking these beloved children characters and making them more, I don't want to say adult, but like twisted, psychopath kind of deals, as weird as that even sounds. There was something to it, and I just feel it failed hard here. I hope in future ones, because I know there's a few other characters being planned, they go about it better. So my final grade has to be F. This movie failed hard in everything. The writing, the story, the fact you couldn't enjoy yourself in this movie because there's nothing to enjoy about this movie. F tier. Alright, thank you for listening to me ramble. Have a good day.